All right, we're live here with the Emergency Operations Center and what's happening with the train derailment. Let's get an update for you now.
Okay, we just met with the leaders who are working on the site right now, neutralizing the chemicals that's on the ground, as well as getting the rail system kind of cleared as much as they can. They've separated the rail cars. We're down to only 3 cars left there, one on each side of the damaged car. The product that was running out has basically drained itself out. There's still product remaining in the car. We know that at some point when they're getting the cars upright, there may be some more spillage. They're trying everything they can at this point. Some possible ways of neutralizing what's in the car prior to uprighting that particular car. They're going to do everything in their power to not spill any more product. But as we speak, the ground has been decontaminated to some degree, but there's still some issues. During the night, there was some vapor issues, so they contracted out some airboats to push some of the vapors away from the area they were working, giving the guys a little better environment to work in. They went right back to work. They're making progress as we speak. The air monitors are all over the place throughout the community, giving us some good feedback that things are pretty good right now as far as the zone that is right now, the evacuated zones. We see no reason to expand that, and we'll keep the public posted on the progress they're making today. And look, as soon as it's safe, we're going to try to get people back to their houses, but nothing's going to happen until the facts are in place that the chemical is neutralized. There will be no more possibility of having to let people in and moving them out again. So as we speak, they're making good progress, and we want the public to know that we'll keep them posted as the day goes on.
And Sheriff, on top of that, you've got the 3 cars that are still there that are left. How long, what kind of time frame are we looking at to upright those vehicles and get those out of the way, those cars, those train cars?
They're working on that as we speak. It's hard to tell you that it'll be done in an hour or 2 hours, but they're all working on that as we speak.
Paris President said yesterday that they think that residents maybe could get back sometime later this afternoon, basically that they won't have to stay overnight for a second night in a row if there aren't any setbacks. Would you say there were any setbacks that would maybe hurt those chances?
I would say there was a setback when they had an issue with that little fuming plume that settled on them, and then there was a need to get some kind of air movers in place, and that took about an hour and a half to 2 hours to actually accomplish that once they were blowing some of that stuff off of the workers. So they were able to get back in there, so it set them back some. It's hard to give you a time. We don't want to say, hey, we're going to let you back at your house at 3 o'clock and we just can't do it. But they told us they were going to keep us posted. I've made a request to keep me updated on the air quality. If we have someone who has an emergency, we'll do the same thing we did last night, allowing someone, if we can, give me a reading in that particular location where the person may need to go into their home to retrieve something that they absolutely need. We know that we have people left animals behind. There's a lot of concerns about that. We may be able to help you, but I can't tell you right now, if you show up at this roadblock, I'm going to get you in 15 minutes or a half an hour. We got to make sure it's safe for anyone to move into your particular location and get you in there.
What's the next phase for the...
There's a lot of symptoms that can come about if you do inhale this. Has anyone in the area reported any of these symptoms, and how is everyone that's seen the cleanup process? Are they okay?
As far as the crew that's out there working, I have no reports of anyone being affected by the product. They're wearing all their personal protective equipment as they're going in and out of there. And I know that what they're attempting to do with moving the air around is to give these guys a better work environment so they can maybe get off of some of that, the facial coverages and the things that they can do. They can get down to just regular gloves and go to work. But they're doing everything they need to protect their people. We have no reports of anybody being injured. I don't have any updated reports of anyone in the public that may have gone and seek medical help. If that happened, I don't have that information right now.
Now, on top of the chemical spill, can you kind of outline what needs to be done to get that all cleaned up, the actual process that takes?
So they have product on the ground. They came in with the chemicals that they need to neutralize that. They did a lot of that last night. They are taking some samples, soil samples. They give us positive feedback this morning that it wasn't as deep as they thought it may have gone just in some quick sampling. But there are some areas that they probably missed because you just picture, the spillage and what directions it's seeping and finding its lowest spot and settling in certain little ditches or wherever. So when the sun comes up and we can really see the total area of affected ground, they're gonna address it immediately. But they did as much as they could last night. It helped them get the work crews in, get what they needed to get done, and they're gonna jump right on that as soon as the sun's up, and we can see that maybe they missed a little trench that it may have taken a different path. They're going to dig up a lot of ground. They know that they have to go all the way down to get the pH that levels that are required. They also they sampled the vehicles that they pulled away, the real cars, making sure that there were some that needed to be decontaminated. And they're assuring us that when it comes time that we want to bring people back in, that they will assist us to satisfy the public who's coming in, whether or not there's an issue on their personal property, whether coming taking air quality readings, doing pH samples on their vehicles, on their doorknobs, whatever needs to be done to assure the public that we let them return to a safe environment.
Residents
Sheriff
are
Martin,
waking
do
up
we know
this morning.
What caused this?
Pardon me?
Do we know what caused the train derailment yet?
No, we don't.
Do you know if residents are waking up this morning in their hotel rooms? Do you have would you prefer them to show up here, or is there a number they should call? What's the safest thing you want residents to know? Because they will be obviously waking up this morning with a lot of questions.
No, we really don't want people starting to show up and lining up on the highway, and there's no way for us to get them in. We would prefer that they wait till we giving them a clear sign that it's safe, and we can maybe start moving in one street at a time. Of course, the folks who are closest to the incident, we need to make sure they know that they're going to be the last ones in. There's a lot of activity going on close to their residence. But as soon as we can, we're going to tighten up that zone of the evac neighborhoods. But for us to give you a timeline right now, can't. And no, I don't want them just sitting on the road waiting for us to do that.
What about river traffic? Because the Mississippi River was closed because of this as well.
Sir, you want to comment on that?
The river right now, we've been in communication with the Coast Guard. The river right now, they're just monitoring it. The river traffic is open as of now. They had it shut down very briefly while they did assessments and all, but that's been all lifted. So the river traffic should be flowing at this time.
Who's doing the work? Who's doing the work? Who's doing the cleanup?
Oh, they brought in several
Yeah,
contractors.
it's E3, which is also now was bought out by OMI, which is a contractor that is under contract with Canadian National Railroad. And Houcher is their uprighting contractor that's here on site.